Fox and Friends.
The exact number has not yet been announced, but tonight the president will announce that some troops will be headed home from Afghanistan. But his top military advisors warn of drawing down too quickly too many.
It goes without saying that there are a lot of reservations in the Congress about the war in Afghanistan and our level of commitment. There are concerns among the American people who are tired of a decade of war.
Indeed. On our panel this morning, K.T. McFarland is former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State, that's a mouthful, and a Fox News national security analyst. Erin Velarde is former VP of Program and Communications at the White House Project. She's also an advisor at No Labels. And Bernard Whitman is a former pollster for President Clinton and a political strategist as well. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's start with this. Just give me the number. All I want to hear is the number. KT, what is the number the president should say tonight?
He's going to say, well, what he's going to say.
I just want to hear the number. What would be the right number?
I don't think the number is important, but I think he'll probably say 30. And he'll say, but they're not going to come out, the bulk of them, until after our election.
Would you be okay with 30?
I'm not okay with the whole thing. I think, look, Afghanistan is a three-legged stool. The military part, which he's talking about tonight, is only one leg. He's avoiding or not dealing with the other two legs, which is the Karzai government and Pakistan.
Erin, what's the right number?
I think the American public is looking for action, and whatever that number is, there's got to be a plan behind it. I think we're tired of hearing the word strategy, strategy, strategy. I think actually we're looking for action, and I think the number, no matter what it is, has got to come with some concrete deliverables for the next 18 months.
Bernard?
Well, frankly, the American people want a lot of troops taken down this summer. 75% say they want a substantial reduction by this summer. That's not going to happen. The president's going to announce maybe 5,000 by year's end, maybe another 20, 25,000 through the end of 2012. And frankly, that is the minimum number that is reasonable, given the fact that we have got to turn over security to the Afghanistan indigenous forces by 2014. We've got to have a reasonable troop withdrawal beginning this year.
Okay, here on the two sides, we've got polar opposites. You say big number, you say fewer the better. The problem is what's going on over there right now is, our commanders, KT, have said what we've got in Afghanistan right now, what we have achieved is fragile. And unless we continue,
and I was there.
I
was there 2 months ago and met with Petraeus and went all around the country. They have made significant military victories and changes, and they should continue to do that. The problem is that's only one of the three-legged stool. That's only one leg. And you could have the strongest military leg you want, but unless you solve the problem of the Pakistani government not going after the safe havens and the Karzai government being unable to take over after we leave, stool falls.
But I think that we're not going to get to that three-legged stool, and I think Gates said it here on Brit Hume. Bipartisanship, what is the biggest lesson learned? And he said it was the lack of bipartisanship, and that we have strong national security when there is bipartisanship. So if we're going to, build this three-legged stool, everybody's got to come to the table. Everybody's got to come with these ideas. Because, we just did a poll. The American public believes that no either party has the monopoly on good ideas, particularly around the war and the fiscal crisis.
Pardon me, Erin, and one of the things this administration would like to do is they would like to draw it down because it's costing $10 billion a month, and this administration would like to spend that money on something else.
Well, but there's got to be a recognition that we are never going to win this war militarily. It's not going to happen. We're not going to achieve victory on the ground. It's got to be through a political settlement, and it's got to be through focused, targeted, limited objectives, which frankly do not require and cannot sustain a force of 100,000 men and women over there, particularly when we've been engaging in this war for over 10 years. About 10 years, the American people aren't going to stand for it, so we have to recognize, draw down the forces, limited combat, engage in a political solution. That's the way forward.
All right. The way forward on this program is the panel is going to stick around, and we're going to talk about this. We're going to move from the military to politics. How do John Huntsman, who was just with us, and Rick Perry, the governor of Texas, play in a 2012 presidential politics? Many say these two will change the game. We'll hear from the panel next. And remember this story. Delta Airlines charging soldiers to bring bags from home from war home. One lawmaker is so ticked off he wants to do something that has never been done before. Newly declared GOP presidential contender John Huntsman already tackling the issues, especially the economy. He sat down with us about an hour ago, right over there on the curvy couch.
I'm running on my record. I'm proud to run on my record. Every governor was talking about dealing with emissions back many, many years ago, only to find that with the economic implosion, we can't afford anything that is going to put any kind of hamper on economic growth. So cap and trade is not something that is viable today.
Okay, so he got in yesterday over by the Statue of Liberty. Also, there are rumors that Texas Governor Rick Perry may hop in, and many say these two could change the game completely. We're back with the panel. Bernard, you're a Democrat pollster, and I want to read something you told our producer regarding Rick Perry. I don't think the American people are ready for another big-talking Texan to ride into the White House.
No, I don't.
What are you doing? Connecting him to George Bush?
Well, I mean, I think that's obvious. Everybody will. He comes from big Texas state. He's got the Tea Party record. He's got the Texas swagger. But the fact is, I don't think the American people are going to be immediately ready to embrace someone that they don't know, that talks big without a lot of real solutions. With respect to John Huntsman, hardly an audacious start for this poor guy. His staff and his press, accompanying press, were nearly put on a plane to Saudi Arabia instead of to New Hampshire yesterday. That was after they passed out credentials that misspelled his name and indicated that he was in New York instead of New Jersey. But I will say Huntsman is a very interesting character. And unlike the other Mormon in the race, hasn't spent the last 8 years running away from his fairly moderate record within the Republican Party. So I think that there's an opportunity for Huntsman to distinguish himself from the others in the race.
Let me ask you something. He just brought up the other Mormon in the race. Is there, Aaron, do you feel a Mormon bias in this country yet that they're going to have to overcome?
I think there's always some questions. People are always looking at folks' religion, but, you know, I think when I've seen signs around the country now for the new Mormon campaign that's out, you know, I am Mormon, Mormon.org, so I think that there's
So it's not a bad thing?
I think that there's an effort to normalize, particularly when you have two contenders in the Republican primary. But I think what's interesting about Huntsman is his approach. You know, no matter where he was, you know, in New Hampshire, the two biggest applause that came from Huntsman, of course, was on the jobs and economy. But the second biggest applause was when he was talking about how the way he's going to conduct his campaign, that he respects the president, road. Yes, and that he respects his fellow contenders. And those are the two areas that you actually saw the American public give him the biggest applause, and I think that's something that actually is going to differentiate him in this campaign.
KT, what do you think about these two governors?
I think that what you're seeing is the preview of the split in the Republican Party, which is exactly what happened in 1980. When Reagan was elected, it was social conservatives, fiscal conservatives, and foreign policy conservatives. And then once Reagan got into office, the fiscal conservatives and the foreign policy conservatives split. Because the fiscal guys said, look, we want to balance the budget even if we have to cut defense. And the defense guys said, no, we don't want to balance the budget. We have to keep defense. And what you'll see is Huntsman will be the guy who says fiscal first, and Perry would be the guy who says defense first, strong national security.
So you're saying there's a broad array of choices on the Republican side. What do you make of the Democrat narrative that, you know, the Republicans are not happy with the slate of candidates so far?
Oh, I think that that's just griping. You know, they're just trying to sort of handicap the race beforehand. The Republican team it represents really talented people. You just don't know who they are yet. Who knew who Barack Obama was at this point before he ran for president?
But hold on. With all due respect, the field right now is Snow White being written on Mitt Romney and the Seven Dwarfs. What I think is exciting about John Huntsman is he actually threatens to induce some adult thinking and behavior into this race, and he actually is willing to stand up to most of the far right in the Republican Party that says we cannot run on ultra-conservative social issues. He's got a reasonably good record on gay rights, for example. He's in favor of civil unions, not on marriage. He needs to evolve on that, just like the president does. But the fact is, the Republican Party now maybe can have a debate that doesn't hinge on who is the most socially conservative in the room.
But you know, the interesting thing about Huntsman is every time he talks, every question he's asked, he talks about jobs and the economy. He's a smart guy.
Those are the things people really care about. All right, KT and Aaron and Bernard, excellent debate today. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve.
Have a great day. Brian will validate your parking on the way out.